My lesbian journey began in the dorm. I never thought a random roommate assignment would shatter every belief I had about myself. But there I was at 3 in the morning, sitting on the cold bathroom floor of our shared dorm, crying so hard I could barely breathe, finally admitting to myself what I'd been running for my entire life. The girl sleeping peacefully, just 20 feet away, had no idea she'd become the earthquake that cracked open the foundation of everything I thought I knew about who I was supposed to be. My name is Sarah, and I grew up in a small conservative town in Georgia where everyone knew everyone, and deviation from the expected path wasn't just frowned upon, it was essentially erased from existence. I dated boys throughout high school, gone to prom with the quarterback, kissed them in parking lots, and felt absolutely nothing but a vague sense that I was checking boxes on some cosmic to-do list. I told myself that the butterflies everyone talked about were exaggerated, that love would come later, that I just hadn't met the right guy yet. I'd perfected the art of performance, playing the role of the perfect small-town girl heading off to college to get her degree, find a husband, and return home to raise a family. That was the script, and I'd memorized every line. Then I met Maya on move-in day, and suddenly I couldn't remember any of my lines at all. She walked into our dorm room with paint-stained overalls, wild curly hair pulled into a messy bun, and the most genuine smile I'd ever seen, while my side of the room was already organized with color-coordinated storage bins and inspirational posters. She threw her bags on the floor and immediately started unpacking vintage band, t-shirts, and art supplies, talking a mile a minute about her plans to major in fine arts and how excited she was to finally be somewhere she could be herself. There was an energy about her, an authenticity that made my carefully constructed armor feel suddenly very heavy. She was from Portland, had 2 moms, spoke 3 languages, and radiated the kind of confidence I'd spent 18 years trying to fake. Those first few weeks of college were a blur of orientation activities, awkward icebreakers, and trying to navigate campus without getting lost. Maya and I fell into an easy friendship that surprised me with its intensity. We'd stay up late talking about everything and nothing, sharing midnight snacks and dreams about the future. She'd tell me about growing up with same-sex parents in a liberal city, about coming out as bisexual in middle school, about her exes and heartbreaks with a casualness that both fascinated and terrified me. I found myself hanging on every word, watching the way her hands moved when she talked, noticing how her eyes crinkled when she laughed, memorizing the sound of her voice in a way that felt dangerous and thrilling and completely beyond my control. I started making excuses to spend time with her. I'd suggest study sessions even though we didn't share any classes. I'd wait for her after her art studio sessions, bringing her coffee the way she liked it, oat milk, extra foam, a dash of cinnamon. I'd rearrange my schedule to be in the room when she was there, and I felt genuinely disappointed on the nights she went out with other friends. I told myself this was normal, that this was just what close friendship felt like, that the constant pull I felt toward her was simply because I'd never had a friend quite like her before. But late at night, lying in my bed just feet away from hers, listening to her breathe in the darkness, I knew I was lying to myself. The feeling in my chest wasn't friendship. It was something much bigger, much scarier, and something I absolutely could not afford to name. Everything changed on a Friday night in October. There was a party in one of the upperclassmen dorms, and Maya convinced me to go, lending me one of her vintage band tees and doing my makeup with gentle fingers that made my skin burn wherever she touched. At the party, I watched her dance with a girl from her painting class, watched them laugh together, watched the girl lean in close to whisper something in Maya's ear. The jealousy that ripped through me was so visceral, so undeniable that I had to leave. I mumbled something about not feeling well and practically ran back to our dorm, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might crack my ribs open. That's when the panic attack hit. I'd never had one before, but suddenly I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't do anything but collapse on the bathroom floor and sob. 20 minutes later, Maya burst through the door, having abandoned the party to check on me. She found me there, a complete mess, and without asking questions, she sat down beside me and pulled me into her arms. I buried my face in her shoulder and cried like I'd never cried before, releasing years of suppression and denial and fear. She held me through all of it, running her fingers through my hair and whispering that everything would be okay. even though she had no idea what was wrong. When I finally calmed down enough to speak, the words came tumbling out before I could stop them. I told her everything about the jealousy, about how I couldn't stop thinking about her, about how terrified I was because nothing in my life had prepared me for feeling this way about a girl. I told her about my hometown, about the expectations crushing me, about how I'd always known something was different but had buried it so deep. I'd almost convinced myself it wasn't real. I expected her to pull away, to be uncomfortable, to ask for a room change. Instead, she took my face in her hands and told me something that would replay in my mind 1,000 times. She said that figuring out who you are is the bravest thing anyone can do, and that there was no right or wrong timeline for that discovery. She didn't make fun of me for my confusion. She didn't push me to label myself or define what I was feeling. She just listened, validated every emotion, and shared her own journey of self-discovery. That night marked the beginning of the most painful, beautiful, transformative period of my life. Maya became my guide through uncharted territory, recommending books and movies and music, introducing me to her LGBTQ+ friends on campus, creating a safe space where I could explore this new understanding of myself without judgment. We didn't jump into a relationship. She was wise enough to know I needed time to process everything first. But our friendship deepened into something profound, a connection that felt like coming home to a place I'd never been before. The next few months were an emotional roller coaster. I came out to a few trusted friends, tested the waters with different labels until I found the ones that felt right, joined the Campus Pride Alliance, and slowly started building an identity that was authentically mine rather than something borrowed from other people's expectations. There were hard days when the weight of it all felt crushing, when I worried about telling my family, when I mourned the simpler path I'd thought my life would take. But there were also moments of pure, unexpected joy. The first time I held hands with Maya while walking across campus. The first time I introduced her as my girlfriend. The first time I attended a Pride event and felt surrounded by people who understood. The first time I looked in the mirror and genuinely liked the person staring back. Maya never took credit for my journey, always insisting that the courage came from within me, that she'd simply been lucky enough to witness it. But I knew the truth. She'd been my catalyst, my safe harbor, my proof that love didn't have to look the way I'd always been told it should. She'd shown me that being true to yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. That hiding parts of who you are slowly kills you from the inside out. That the right people will love you not despite your truth but because of it. By the end of freshman year, I was a completely different person than the scared girl who'd moved into that dorm room 9 months earlier. I'd come out to my parents over spring break, and while they struggled with it at first, they were trying, which was more than I'd hoped for. I'd stopped performing the role. I'd been assigned and started writing my own story. I'd fallen in love with an incredible woman who saw me, really saw me, and loved every complicated piece. The journey wasn't over. I knew there would be more challenges ahead, more people who wouldn't understand, more moments of doubt and fear. But I also knew I'd never go back to pretending, never again betray myself for the comfort of others. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever felt lost trying to figure out who you really are, or if you believe in the power of authentic love and self-discovery, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support means everything and helps these stories reach others who might desperately need to hear them. Share this with someone who needs a reminder that it's never too late to choose yourself, that confusion is part of the process, and that the most beautiful version of your life might look nothing like what you originally planned. Looking back now years later, I'm grateful for that random roommate assignment. I'm grateful for every terrifying moment of self-discovery, every tear cried on bathroom floors, every leap of faith into the unknown. My lesbian journey didn't begin in the dorm. It had been waiting inside me all along. But that tiny dorm room, with its mismatched decorations and late-night conversations, was where I finally gave myself permission to stop hiding. It was where I learned that sometimes the most beautiful love stories are the ones we never saw coming. And sometimes the person who changes your life forever is sleeping, just 20 feet away, waiting for you to be brave enough to see what's been there all along. Before I go, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever had a moment that completely changed how you saw yourself? Drop a comment below sharing your story. or just letting me know this. Video touched you, reading your experiences means the world to me and creates a community where we can all feel less alone. The beautiful truth is this: you don't have to have everything figured out. You don't have to fit into anyone else's boxes. You just have to be willing to listen to that quiet voice inside that knows who you really are, even when the whole world is telling you to be someone else. And when you find people who love you for exactly who you are, hold on to them fiercely, because that kind of love, the kind that sees you and celebrates you, is the most revolutionary act there is.